What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today I'm going to teach you how to glue your 1/8 off-road wheel tire and foam. Welcome back, everybody, to, of course, the lovely Adrenaline RC YouTube channel, where today I'm going to teach you how to glue your 1/8 off-road wheel tire and foam. And you may be asking yourself, hasn't he done this before? And the answer is yes, I have done this before, and it was over a year ago now. It was like my second or third video, and honestly, if you go back and watch that and then compare it to this, that video is just, I don't know, it's kind of cringy to me. It's not the greatest quality. The information is right, but I don't know. I wanted to go and redo it, and what you'll probably notice over the next couple weeks is we're gonna go back and redo some of those original videos for a couple reasons. A, I want to bring the quality up on them, and then also there are a couple extra things that I want to go over. Like, for example, today we're going to focus specifically on our 8 scale tire, and I'm going to go over, of course, the gluing end of things for the wheel to the tire, but then also I'm going to teach you how to glue the foam and why you may want to glue the foam. Now, that is something that you aren't going to do all the time, but it is useful to know. That way, when you're at the track, if you need to use that as a tuning option, you of course have the knowledge to be able to do that. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the intro. There's not a crazy amount to really go over. We're just gluing tires today. So I've got some J-Concepts Relapse in Aqua 2, which is a very common compound and tire that we use here on our outdoor off-road track at Adrenaline. And then I've got my white buggy wheels to go along with that. And then in front of us here, I've got some materials that we'll need to be able to glue those tires successfully. Those being, we've got a nice microfiber towel. That way we can, of course, get the tire clean to go along with that. We've got some Simple Green. Of course, you'll spray the Simple Green on the rag. That'll get the release mold off of it. That way you can have a nice good bond between the two of them. I have my tire punch. That is going to allow us to put holes in our tires, which is going to allow them to vent the air, so that way as you're going down the straightaway or driving around the track, the tires don't just balloon and hold the air in. I've got my tire bands here. These are going to be used for once you get the glue around the bead. This is going to allow it to hold nice and tight. And I think the last thing I've got in front of me is going to be my medium glue and glue tips. Now, there are a couple different types of glues. J-Concepts offers both a medium and a thin glue. I personally like the medium. Oh, I might have just hurt your ears there. I touched my mic a little bit. But I personally like the medium glue. I think it's a little bit easier to work with, comparatively speaking, but everybody has their preferences. All of these are, of course, going to be available on our website, adrenalinrcracing.com. The only reason why they may not be available at specific times is just if we are sold out of them, but this is stuff that we keep in stock regularly. So if it does get sold out, we usually get it in pretty quickly. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and spin you guys around. We're going to go from a more like behind angle this time. That way we can get a kind of top-down view, give you a better visual representation, and get you guys nice and successful at gluing your tires. All right, so here we are with everything out in front of us, and we are ready to get started with gluing our tire. Now, what you'll notice is, of course, I only have one tire here. That is because it's going to be the exact same process for all 4. If you want to imagine me gluing all 4, you can, of course, go replay the video 4 times, and I will gladly appreciate the views. But we can go ahead and get started now. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over the process of how to glue the foam. And to do that, of course, you have to have the foam outside of the tire. I'm not actually going to glue the foam simply because I'm using an Aqua 2 compound, which is a very stiff tire already, so I don't need the extra kind of stability that the glued foam will provide, but I still want to go over what that process is. So what you'll notice if you flip your foam inside out is we have all of these ridges here, and of course they have edges. These edges are going to key into the center part of our wheel, which traditionally, when you don't have a glued foam, this is what's basically going to keep the foam from moving around as best as possible. But of course, it can only do so much, mostly from a side-to-side standpoint, but it's not going to do anything when it comes to expanding the tire. So we want to line those ridges up with that groove. So all we're going to do is put our lovely foam onto our wheel. And then a lot of times visually, you can see It's just right in the center. You can kind of do a quick look at the face of it, make sure nothing's poking out at all. And then same thing on the back, make sure nothing's poking out. Or the other thing you can do, of course, is you can peel the foam back and then you can see exactly where it is. But in this case, we are set to go with this. The next thing you're gonna go ahead and do, grab your glue, put your glue tip on, nothing fancy here at all. And when you do go to glue it, you're gonna peel the foam back. And I like to get as far in as possible, and I'll just kind of do quick lines back and forth, and then a lot of times once the foam gets pressed back down, it'll spread itself out. You'll do that across the entire wheel. So wherever you start, you'll go all the way around. Then after you do this front side, I'll go to the back. Sometimes the glue will just run itself all the way down, so you don't have to add any glue, but I like double check just to make sure. And if there are spots that are picking up, same thing, peel it back, just quickly apply some glue in there, and then you'll be all set to go. Once you have the foam on here and glued, it can become slightly difficult to get your tire on. So what I like to do is flip my tire inside out. You'll line it onto the grooves. You'll notice that the tire is gonna have 3 grooves. Some tires will have a diamond pattern, some will have the grooves. In this case, these will key straight in. If it has the diamond pattern, it'll be the same process. You just don't have the extra key in, I guess you could say. Then all you're gonna do is start to fold it over and then work it around the foam and the wheel itself. Then from here, you can see it's all kind of messed up. So I'll just come around the entire tire, kind of move the tire itself around, get the back of the bead set in, and then of course get the front of the bead set in the exact same process. Now from this point, this is when you would start gluing your tire, but obviously we haven't actually cleaned this yet, so it's not ready to be mounted. But that is the process of mounting the tire with the glued foam and having that foam be glued to the wheel. Now that we've gone over that, we can of course go into our normal process, and actually I was a little early there. First thing we're gonna do is take our tire punch. For A-scale tires, I do usually like to use the 3mm hole size, and on buggies, I will go 180 degrees apart. So I'll go right next to the J of the J Concepts, rotate around, and then same thing right next to the J on J Concepts. Now, if this was a truggy tire, I would do 4 holes. So I would do same 180 degrees apart, rotate the tire 90 degrees, and then do another 180 degrees apart, resulting in a total of 4 holes. The other thing is I like to put the holes on the inside of the bead itself, or the inside of the tire, the inside sidewall, because I feel like it has a little bit less stress. And then when I actually put it on, the holes will be on the back side, again, to try and alleviate stress. And it also will make it to where it is probably gonna be a little less susceptible to getting water in it. Obviously, water is going to travel anywhere and anywhere it can when you're cleaning your tires, but I feel like that this just makes it a little bit nicer. You can, of course, always go somewhere in the center line of the tire and punch holes there. This is just what I prefer. Now that we've got our tires punched with holes, we can take our simple green, spray some on our rag. You can do a lot, you can do a little bit. You can hear there, I just did 3. Really just comes down to personal preference. And then the next part of this is gonna be actually scrubbing the tire. It'll be a little bit different tire to tire. Some have a lot of release mold on them, some don't. On this one, I don't know if you can see it super well in the camera, but there is an okay amount of that white release mold on both sides. So what we're gonna do, take our microfiber. I like to scrub first to try and get as much off as possible. And when you're actually scrubbing, you'll see the tire itself go into more of that true black color rather than that kind of like hazy color almost. And then I'll end off with some swoops, and then I will go ahead and dry this inside bead. Now, if your tire doesn't have a lot of release mold on it, you can use this same part of Simple Green, but I try to avoid cross-contamination. So each bead, I will now grab my Simple Green again, give it a nice spray, and then we'll go ahead and scrub the inside. The exact same process, nothing different at all. All you're doing is just trying to get the mating surface between the tire and the wheel as clean as possible. Then we can go ahead and do, again, is scrub it out. Now, if you do have a lot of excess simple green in here, that can potentially react with the glue. So if your foam gets like super wet or the tire is still super wet, you do want to make sure you go get it as dry as possible. And if it does become very, very saturated, then you can of course let it sit for a couple minutes. That way it can get any of that extra moisture out. Now that we have our tire nice and clean, our holes are punched in it, we can go ahead and throw our wheel in. Now, for personal preference, for purely just the aesthetic of it, I do put the JC of the wheel at the J Concepts. That's not needed at all. I don't know. I think it looks pretty. So once we go get our bead nice and seated, nice and smooth, we are ready to get gluing. Some tires that are really stiff compounds, sometimes you can glue it, then put the tire band on. Other tire compounds that are really soft, like a green, for example, you are probably gonna want to put the tire band on straight away. That way, again, it just holds the bead nice and tight on that really soft tire, gives you a little bit more rigidity to pull back on so you don't just like fling the tire open. But in this case, we'll go ahead, we'll throw our tire band on just to work through all of the steps. Then I'll just use my finger on the outside here, make sure it's nice and level. A lot of times, once you start peeling it back, it's probably gonna get little ripples here and there. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. The main thing though is just getting a good mating surface, getting a good bond. That way you don't have any issues going around the track. Doesn't need to be perfect. I always tell people function over form, because at the end of the day, if it looks really pretty but it flies off, then it's kind of useless in the grand scheme of things. So now we can go ahead, take our glue, and we can start gluing our tire. Now I'm gonna try to lay my wrist down here. So all I'm doing is peeling back, getting the tip as deep as I can, putting a little bit of glue, and then putting the bead back. And we'll do that all the way around the tire. Now, just like I was saying before about function over form, what you're gonna notice is that when I do this bead of glue, we have lots of excess glue. I'm not gonna tilt it too far up because I don't want it to run everywhere, but we have lots of excess glue. This isn't a problem at all. But like I said, I would rather know for a fact my tire is glued than to have it fly off on the track. And then when you're going around the track, you're not gonna be able to see the glue anyway. But from this point, what you can do is take your microfiber. There's a couple different ways to do this. You can do a quick swipe around, or you can take your tire, dab it very quickly, a couple times, and you can see for the most part, well, I hope you can see it in the video, it cleans up a lot of that excess glue. There's still a little bit here and there, but nothing crazy at all. And then the other thing I do want to forewarn you about, if you do use a microfiber to clean up your glue, is that this glue does react very quickly with the microfiber. You'll notice that it'll start smoking. It's not great to breathe in, and it's probably just not great in general. So if it does start to smoke, try to get as far away from it as possible. It'll only do it for a couple seconds, so it's nothing that's gonna be ultra alarming. It's not gonna set itself on fire, but that chemical reaction, like I said, is not pleasant to breathe in. And that'll come into play probably a little bit more when we do our backside. So I'm gonna let this dry. The backside process is very similar, but I do wipe off the bead slightly different. So we'll let this set up, and then I'll be back as soon as that is set up to show you the backside. All right, so now here we are with the backside of our tire. Like I said, this is gonna be a very, very similar process to what we just did. All we're gonna do is take our glue, peel back the bead a little bit, and then we're just gonna fill it in as nicely as we can, but there's a very, very good chance that it's gonna splooge out in some fashion, which, like I said on the front, is okay because you want function rather than form. As long as the tire stays on, that is the most important thing. And then another thing I can also go over here is that, again, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but all this excess glue that comes out is still clear. If this comes out and it's very yellow, it's not a very clear, clean color, I guess you could say, that is going to indicate that you probably didn't get all the release mold off, which could potentially cause a problem. It isn't going to be the end of the world. Sometimes, if you only clean the bead and not the sidewall, that can happen. So don't be crazy alarmed. Just make sure once it dries, you go back and peel back the bead, or attempt to peel back the bead. That way you can see if it actually bonded correctly. But same thing on the back side, we have this excess glue. Instead of doing the kind of like dab it on the rag, I just take it, kind of bunch it up, and then very quickly swoop around. And it's as simple as that. And you'll see maybe in the video, there's that lovely smoke. It didn't do it very much, but again, you want to make sure you avoid breathing that in. You won't die, but it's not pleasant in any way, shape, or form. And there you have it. So now our tire is nice and glued. Now, don't throw this straight on the car. Obviously, I can touch around the bead now because we dried the excess, but the glue's still inside here on this flat portion where it's actually bonding to the wheel is most likely still wet. So usually from this point, I like to let it still sit for about 15 minutes before I throw it on the car to run. If you are in a super tight pinch, of course you can throw it on the car, but if you have the time, I would recommend waiting for it to kind of finish setting up. Keep the tire band on, that way of course it stays nice and tight, but make sure you don't keep the tire band on for too long. That way you don't get any weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like tight points on the tire. Again, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but because of the way this band is, it's kind of compressing the tire itself. So if you leave it on for too long, you can get this weird kind of ripple effect. But as long as you take it off within that kind of 15-minute area, you shouldn't have too much trouble at all. But that's it right there. That is how you glue your 1/8 tire. This, of course, is going to work, like I said, for both buggy and truggy. We will go over 10 scale tires in a future video, but I wanted to just focus on our 8 scale tires today and get you guys all of the information you need to be successful at the track. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely leave those down below in the comment section. Or if you have any videos that you'd like to see in the future, same thing, leave those down in the comments, and I will do my best to get those videos done and out as quickly as possible. But with that being said, thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you guys next week for an all-new video.